Hello, I am Jody Wolf. You're watching Expoz, October 24, 2016 at 1:33 a.m. And I guess you all heard that Gavin McFadyen died on the 23rd. And I have read so many things I cannot find where anyone mentions where he died, where he was. I did find one thing that was that piqued my interest, and I did the same thing this other gentleman did that made a post about it, and he just did the screensaver on his cell phone. He said he did it a number of times, and I did too. And he said, I just wanted to make sure I got it before it disappeared, whatever he was talking about. So I took several pictures and I went down the line of these things he was talking about. And I've heard multiple reasons. I heard, well, let me get to this one where they said that earlier this year, McFadyen gave an interview to RV's Going Underground program to talk about the publication of leaks and related to the United States candidate, Hillary Clinton. And this goes on and on and on. And then in the interview, he said that the documents released so far are merely a drop in the ocean of information WikiLeaks is receiving. And now go back, the cause of McFadyen's death was not made public in the original post from his wife, Susan. She wrote that he died from a short illness. But then that was scratched. That had been removed just immediately after that. I don't know where he was, which it doesn't matter, but I do know, and I already found this, that according to Julian Assange, he had just either been on with him in a conversation at the time, or he had just gotten off with him. But then someone else makes, and I'm just talking now, not a big deal, but makes a statement. Now McFadyen takes his fist in his fight to battle God. That's a cruel thing to say. You don't, you don't die and act like Satan. Now I'm going to go up and make it that, or at least see if I can be bigger than God. I mean, that was stupid, whoever made that post, and it was stupid. But going to the Ecuadorian embassy, Assange been there, and the internet access has been severed for a week now. But yet he was able to contact them and is still in full command. And when it says them, this is Assange talking to McFadyen and his people. And some of these other names I'm seeing here, McFadyen's wife and member of Assange's defense fund, and then of Susan Ben, who described her husband as larger than life person. And anyway, the point I'm trying to make is he did a lot of good. McFadyen did a lot of good. He's the one that shed light on child labor way back, the torture of political prisoners, and this, believe it or not, was in Britain, United Kingdom, and then industrial accidents, and then the Contra, and you remember this with Oliver North, murders in Nicaragua, the CIA, the Maritime piracy. And he was involved in a little bit of everything. But what I have right here, the choice of murder, and most of you know, is poison. That's the choice of murder. Let me find it. But I'm holding, here we go, right here. And I made notes of it. I don't want to show you too much. It was said today, or late on the 23rd, that either throat depression, or lead poisoning. Now, how are you going to tie that together? They're as far apart as they can be. Lead poisoning. Was he hit in the throat with a lead pipe? Or was he poisoned? And nobody said anything about a lead pipe. It's just that when you hear or see throat depression and then lead poisoning, that's where it leads you to think. I'm drawing blank on the name, but the guy that came up with a car that would travel from California to New York, staying someone, after he refused to sell his contraption that would be retrofitted to all American cars, and the cost would have been $165, where you can drive from California to New York on 22 gallons of water. And Stan Myers, they killed him the day after he turned down a final offer of $500 million for his invention. And then Dr. Roy Rife, way back in 32. They had hundreds of doctors around the country in Sacramento and had Roy Rife up on a stage, and the whole story, I'm talking about pictures and everything, of him saving a dozen terminally ill cancer, 8 up with cancer. But yet he took them. In 6 weeks, 10 of them walked out healthy. And then 4 more weeks, the final 2 walked out healthy. Dr. Royal Rife videos, look that up, and look up the one where he recorded when he set the proper squelch, I guess you can say it's a FM signal, and reaches at a certain point, you can see the cancer cell within 2 seconds of hearing that frequency died. Within 2 seconds of that frequency sounding, that cancer died. And you can watch it die on your internet. You can watch it die. You can see it. You can see the film. You can see the cancer cells moving about, and they multiply, man, faster than rabbits on steroids. But yet, when he ran the frequency over them within 2 seconds, and I'm talking about a frequency, if you line up 10,000 of these cancer cells, that they can fit inside of a thousandth of an inch. But if you spread them out over 10 inches and put 100 million cancer cells and let them all be active, that frequency just raked at the speed, just cover that distance in 2 seconds, and when you finish covering that 12 inches, every single cancer cell died. And then one doctor hit him. He said, "Oh, well, wait a minute now. You'll put me out of business if we We need to quit ranting and raving. But it's too late. The paper had already gotten it, and the world already knew. But yet they destroyed Royal Rife, his works. They stole, after burning his home, his hand-built glycerin-filled microscope and the equipment that went with it that would kill the cancer. Not only cancer, it cured anything and everything in the human body that didn't belong there, that was an illness. Common cold, it cured it. Cured it. I mean, like in minutes. Common cold was dead, and the only thing left for you to do is get your voice back and start feeling better. And so they killed him. It's very interesting if you want to go and look at it. But let's get back here. Breitbart was also a friend of McFadyen. And when Breitbart was found to have known certain things, he too was killed. And you know who he was. And Assange, again, he was in contact with McFadyen and may have even been on the phone with him at the time or just minutes before he died. But no one's talking. But guys, I told you last night, I think, that Trump had a mess of emails. Now that's good. And I'll tell you why. Just like Glenn Beck, what he said when he was on Fox, when he was a decent guy, and before he had flipped out somewhere up in his head, he said, and just like the guy that's on has that show, and there's another name I can never think of, but it's the always talking about the prison, anyway. They have so much information at their fingertips that they're safe as long as they have it. Glenn Beck said the same thing. And this guy I'm talking about did the Prison Nation as a radio show. He said, I have so much at my fingertips that can be exposed if I'm disappear. And even if I'm out in public, he said, I feel protected because I have too much information that I've not released, but I've given it to a lot of people. And if anything happens to me, then this information will be released. Assange has done the same thing. And now, I believe, today, again, the dark net, today, I would bet you anything that Donald Trump has 10 times the information that he had yesterday. When I say today, I'm speaking of actually on Sunday. And I bet you he has 10 times the information he had, because when McFadyen was found dead wherever he was, Assange, of course, knew it almost immediately, and you know that he sent out to a number of people, and a lot of people, in case they find Assange dead, then there's so much here that other people have got in their hands. So, in other words, I think Assange just have to stay moving. And I believe at this moment he is no longer in Ecuador. More to come. Jordy Wolf Expoz.